Alright, so we're going to put this on here and slide it down. And you notice I've got, this is kind of catching right here. So I think what I'm going to have to do, maybe just give it a good whack, and it snaps into place. So now everything's nice and tight, and we'll slide this back in the tractor. Alright, I kind of got this in place. Got some hoses and stuff that are kind of catching. So we'll kind of try to lift those up out of the way, get them in kind of where they need to be. Alright, it is it's kind of in place. It's going around the fan there. So next thing we're going to do is make sure that those two pieces that are broken off that sit down in those rubber stops are up in there, and they're not. Alright, there's that side. Time to go get the other side. Alright, so we got the other side in. Now we gotta figure out how to get this side in. Doesn't want to push forward because the fan is binding right there, so may just have to kind of force it a little bit. Yep, that worked. And then that gives the force it, let the fan blades flex a little bit, and then that get it in the right spot to pop in, and then the fan blades will pop in place. Alright, so now it's a matter of hooking everything back up. So we got this hose here to hook back up. Put it back on. And we'll get some pliers over here to put the clip on. Alright, so that's done. Remember, we got some bread ties here we need to put back, keep things in place. We'll get those here in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and bolt the radiator back in. While I got access for, I hook up all these hoses again. This is basically just attaching the shroud back to the radiator part. I wouldn't have wanted to put these in though first, because as hard as it was to finagle everything back in shape, I want as much flexibility as possible. Now, I forgot to tighten this one back up before I put this back in its those seats down there at the bottom, so I can't get my socket back in there, so I'll have to tighten this one up by a wrench. It's not no big deal. I had it finger tight, and it wasn't that far from being tight, so it should only take a few turns. Not too much of an inconvenience. And that should about do it. Alright, we got this bottom hose here. Have to work back in here. Put it on. Not a good way to get another hand in there though. Work at that just a little bit. Then we get our hose clamp back on there and get that tightened down. Alright. Got that on there good and tight. Hose clamp back there somewhere, it's there. Put that on. Bring that hose clamp back around, we'll get it tightened. Alright. We'll get this other hose on the other side. And you can see this is kind kind of pulling this back up to where it needs to be. So actually I think I'm going to put this in place first and then put the hose on after I get it back in. That way I don't have to fight with this hose to get this repositioned back where it needs to be. The first thing I'm going to do is remember that underneath these hoses there's this nut here, and this cutout has to go over that. So I'm going to have to kind of slide this platform back in over that nut like that, and then that's going to line up my holes here where it's nice, tight, and flush. So we'll get those screws put back in there, and then that'll make this go on pretty easy. Alright, so now we'll put our little foam piece back in. We get our radiator clamp up here. We'll get this hose pushed back on. There it goes. Alright, that's good and secure. So everything's basically reattached at this point, except for our main platform here. I have to put our bolts in here. That's going to require just a little bit of alignment. Of course, you just want to get these started. You don't want to tighten one and then try to put the other three in. Get them all started. That way it's loose where you can wiggle it around if you need to get it started. Alright, those two are started. I'll get the other two. Now remember on this one, this jug just kind of lifts off. Easier said than done. There we go. Remember this one, need to use that extension on it. Alright, that was tight. Tighten up these other three. Now this one here, can't use an extension on, so I have to get rid of those. Alright, we'll get our reservoir back on here. Put our overflow tube through. Remember our tube here needs to go back up to here, and then we'll zip tie that down. And of course the last thing we need to do is just put the battery back in. Remember this had these little hooks here. They'll go right in these brackets. And then as we tighten these down, that'll grip and hold it in place. And I forgot, this needs to attach to this carriage bolt down here. I'm going to have to take that back out and put that back on. But you don't have to do that because you watch this video. So what I'd recommend is leaving this one here kind of just loose. You can put it in there a turn or two just to make sure everything's lined up, and it'll go back in there. And then once you get the battery in place, you'll only have to take it out with your finger and then put your cable back on. Alright, I think we are down. Oh, we got the filter to put back in place. And then I think we're down to bread ties and some more coolant. Alright, so we got our filter here, and remember this little clip here, just lift that up, slide that in, and it is back in place. Alright, now we're down to bread ties and antifreeze. Alright, so I got my whole gallon of antifreeze in there, and if I mix this at 50-50 to protect down to negative 34 degrees, which I'm in southern Indiana, so I shouldn't get much colder than that. So I dump my whole gallon in there, and then I'll top it off with whatever's left here, which means I'll, assuming it doesn't take this whole gallon, I should be at some ratio above 50-50, which means I'll cool even further than negative 34 degrees. Alright, I'm going to hook the positive cable to the battery back up so I can start it. Alright, so that's pretty much how to take the radiator in and out of one of these and replace it. Alright, so after I got done putting the radiator in and filling it up with antifreeze, I noticed there were some drips in the area that I had repaired, and I wasn't real sure if the repair didn't work or if it was just from the radiator fluid that I spilled while filling it up. And so I waited, and I went ahead and I did a couple chores on the tractor. I pushed down some wild raspberry bushes and sticker bushes, and I moved some dirt and did some stuff for about an hour or so on the tractor and checked it, and it was dry as a bone, no leaks, no anything. So the drips I saw immediately after the repair was just from the antifreeze that I spilled on the radiator, and it ran down the radiator and was dripping from those same points. So just in case you're wondering, the repair worked great, no leaks, and hopefully that will last at least for a while.